All right, good evening. We are live. I'm attorney Vince Davis, and this is The Secret, How to Fight CPS and Win. I'm joined by some very special guests tonight. Miss Cassandra Woodard, who has quite the Halloween costume on, and Amy, is it Ulcher?
No, it's Euclid. It's hard to pronounce. It's German.
Pronounce it one more time.
Euclid.
Oh, Euclid, Amy Euclid. How are you?
I'm doing okay.
So, Amy, you're on the show tonight. I suspect that you have some issue with CPS. First, tell me what state are you from?
I'm Oregon.
Oh, really?
In
Where?
Douglas County, Roseburg, Oregon.
Where are you in relationship to Bend, Oregon?
About an hour east of there. About a little over an hour east of there. Yeah.
Okay.
Not far.
About a year
Been there.
ago, maybe less than a year ago, I did a case in Bend, Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
Flew into, is it Redmond you fly into?
There's Eugene and there's Portland, I think, that have airports here. That's the only ones I know of.
Well, from LAX on Alaska Airline, you can fly into Redmond, and then you
Oh,
drive
wow.
like about 15 or 20 minutes into Bend. Beautiful country up there. Beautiful country.
It is. It really is.
There was a lawyer that used to work with me who recently retired. She actually picked up another passion, a passion she's always had, making film documentaries. And she recently retired from the law. And she and her husband were moving to Bend, Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
They apparently they had been going up to Bend for years, and it's so beautiful up there. And they fell in love, and I think they got a place somewhere in Bend. And I want to say, and I'm not sure about this, but I think it was like right on the river there. I don't know if that's the Bend River, but there's this river that flows through, the town. And they have river walk where people, exercise and bike, and they have all these restaurants, along the river where you can go and sit down and eat. And it's just beautiful up there. A little cold for my taste, but
Mm-hmm. Anytime you go up there, it's cold.
Clean air, though. Very clean air.
Yeah. Yes.
So, Amy, tell me about your what? Say that
My
again?
husband's from California. My husband is from California, and so he knows about the stuff out there. Yeah.
What part is he from?
Orange County, California.
Oh, okay. All right. So, Amy, tell me what your CPS journey has been.
Okay. I think since the last time I was on the show, I did go to court, and at the very last few minutes, literally the last like 10 minutes, for some reason, we ended up getting a new judge. And instead of me testifying for CPS this time, because they had pulled me from their witness list and called me a hostile witness. But anyway, the birth mother to the little girl that I raised, I'm trying to get back, her attorney asked me to come and testify, and so I did, and I was the first one on the stand. And this new judge was, the CPS attorney questioned me and asked me, did I state that CPS was corrupt? And I said, yes, I did. And then they asked me why, and I named off A, B, C, D, E, Y, 1, 2, 3, 4. Why? I mean, I have all kinds. I said I have all kinds of proof that we've been lied to, and we were good enough to be certified to be foster parents, and we were good enough to be safety service providers for this little girl for the first 5 years of her life. And she had a calm and predictable home, and just everything that you could ever need. And so, and then when they asked me why was I still having visits with her, and I said no, my visits were taken away to me due to her stating that she would commit suicide if she had to come back and see us again. But yet she can go see her birth mom, who did not raise her. And so by the end of it, the judge said, I am not going to make a decision on this case right now. She said, I want to know why a 7-year-old even knows about the word suicide and why she would be stating that, and why the Euclids were good enough to be, safety service providers, and Because they were good enough to be go through the foster application process and get certified. And so she says, I have questions. And so we've had another court date, or I think two more court dates, but they were pushed back because the judge was not ready to make a decision in the case yet.
Okay. How did things come out?
I'm not sure yet. We have court again on, I think, December the 4th or 14th.
And what type of hearing?
This is a TPR.
And where is the child placed right now?
She's still in the foster home.
Is that foster home looking to adopt the child?
Yes.
Did you have any questions for me tonight, Amy?
Well, let's see. Last time I was on the show, you told me I needed to file a federal lawsuit with all the, because I have plenty. I mean, enough proof of just people being foul. And I read a story. I don't know how true it is because it vanished as quick as it popped up on my husband's phone. But it was that DHS is supposed to be under investigation here in Douglas County right now. Something about the caseworkers, I believe they're citing that they were being bribed with money, I guess, to say certain things.
Who was being bribed?
So I'm not sure. I guess caseworkers were being bribed by someone through DHS. I don't know who it was. I don't remember, sir. Sorry. But I think it's about time. If they are under investigation, they should be.
Who's doing the investigation up there?
I'm not sure yet. I've just now found out about this like yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to find out where it's going on, if it's true.
Cassandra, did you have any questions for Amy?
No, not at the moment.
Okay.
I was just, not at the moment.
Amy, did you have any questions for me?
Yes. What kind of attorney do I need to look for when suing CPS? Is it family or juvenile?
It's not family. It's generally some type of juvenile dependency / CPS attorney that you need. So if you just go into Google,
Mm-hmm.
and for you to have an expanded search, given the number of attorneys probably in Oregon compared to California, I would type in CPS defense attorney, Oregon, and see what names come up and where they're located. Now, unfortunately or fortunately, you may or may not find it an attorney right there in your city or county. I'm sure that you'll find attorneys, in the surrounding areas. They may have to travel to come to your location to do the case, but that's something that you have to consider. When I was also up there in Oregon, a lot of the hearings were done online. Not all, sometimes we had to actually go to Oregon, but a lot of the hearings were online. Now that I'm thinking about it, even the trial, I don't know if I ever went to Oregon inside the courthouse. Maybe one time, but COVID was preventing these courtrooms from being open and everything.
Yeah.
And eventually the trial, I think the trial was even conducted on the web. I don't recall. I don't think I did the trial, but I do recall the client telling me that the trial ended up being on the web. So, sometimes when you find an attorney in your area or in the state, they can appear via, online. And it's just like, presumably like being there in the courtroom, although it is different. The judge doesn't get to interact with or see and I guess feel the demeanor of the witnesses. But everyone's making do with this whole COVID situation. And that's been a
Mm.
while, and I don't know what the rules are and what they're doing in Oregon these days, as we move out of COVID. But every once in a while, we get this COVID scare, a new strain, blah, blah, blah. So have you been
Well,
going to court appearances online or in person?
in person.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
What
in person.
do you know what county Bend, Oregon is in?
I want to say Coos County. Coos County or something. Coos Bay. No, yeah.
I
I'm
want to
not
say,
sure.
was it, I want to say Clackamas, or maybe not Clackamas.
Oh, yeah. Clackamas. You're right. That's it.
Or
That's
is
it.
Deschutes also a county?
Yes. I believe that's one of your places that you went or you've been before. Deschutes
Yeah.
County.
Yeah, that
You
was
did a
it.
trial.
It was Deschutes County. I think Bend is a city in Deschutes County. Like
Okay.
right there in the middle of the state. Right there in the
Yeah.
middle.
Just gonna try and look it up. But I think you're right. That sounds right. See, I moved to Oregon from Oklahoma
Oh, okay. What part of
back in
Oklahoma?
2006. Huh?
What part of Oklahoma?
Ardmore, Oklahoma. It's kind of like it right directly in between Dallas and Texas and Oklahoma City,
Okay.
right there in Tornado Alley.
Is that what they call it?
Yeah.
How far are you from Tulsa?
I would say I lived about 2 hours south from there.
Okay. All right. Hey, Cassandra, this evening, did you want to ask me any questions about your case? I think you're on mute.
See, there I go again. I wanted to ask what was my last hearing? It was a 366 366.3. What is that? Is that like close to being like, is that a bad? Like that's
Well, let's Google it, okay?
okay.
We type in WIC 366.3. And I encourage everyone that has a case, you want to find the statute that, pertains to your hearing, because sometimes it will give you an explanation of what to expect. And 366.3 is basically a 6-month review hearing, and it's quite long. It's 5 subsections. So I'm not sure, but it would you probably just had what's called a 6-month review hearing, and it probably was scheduled for another 6-month review hearing. Are your children 16 years of age or older?
No, one's about to turn 15 this month, November, this upcoming month. She's gonna be 15, and the other one's 13.
Has there been any plan? Have they talked about having the kids adopted by anyone?
No, not at the moment because they haven't found anybody who would want to adopt them. I don't think, because one of them has been like running away and doing things where she's been in a therapeutic group home, and so has the other one. But the other one decided to like follow what they're saying, and the other one doesn't want to follow what they're saying. So I don't know. They haven't really been in a foster home of where people would want to adopt them until just recently when they got transferred into a foster home, but it's with somebody who is like a close friend to both me and the girls. So,
Oh, it's a friend of yours?
well, she's been like a close family, kind of like not a friend, I guess. She was the pastor of their church, and she also was a DCS worker at one point, and now she does child counseling, but she also is a foster parent. So she took them in knowing them already, and so they have her She has them right now.
Does she want to adopt them?
She said if she had to, she would. But if I can get them before that, like if we could figure something out before, it gets to the point where she's going to, like, I'm going to lose my parental rights and she has to adopt them or something like that, like she would do it. Mm-hmm. But right now she's hoping that I pull through with filing my 388 and everything like that.
Pull through? We've been talking about that for a couple months, haven't we?
Yeah.
I know we have a difference of strategy.
It was taking a long time because I was arguing with my public defender with it a lot.
Okay.
Because she kept on telling me that I couldn't do it yet because I didn't finish my case plan. And then she didn't want me to waste my time because I wouldn't be able to use the same stuff in my next 388 if I used it in this 388. Which you told me a couple times already that that's not true, but she insists that it is. So I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Get yourself a new caseworker. Fire her. Can you do that? Can you fire her? Can you ask for a new caseworker?
Oh, it's not a caseworker. She's my public defender.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah, she's dealing with her has not been all that great. Like she's throughout my whole case, that whole law firm has just been fucking like I was so mad at my first lawyer because she basically just told me that I couldn't do anything about anything and that I had to do what they said.
Oh yeah, exactly. They're telling us
I told her I had parenting classes. I was going to college for child development. I'm like trying to get my life together and do good things for my kids, but she insisted that didn't matter. That didn't matter. So.
Oh wow.
And that she wasn't going to appeal it or anything. She said that didn't matter. Just do what they say. So.
The decision to appeal or not appeal is not up to the attorney. It's generally up to the client.
Yeah, but I didn't know that I could. She didn't even tell me that I could. I was just telling her all the things why I am okay for my kids. And she's like, no, you says it all right here in this report. She basically treated me like I was already guilty, like my own attorney. So, and she's looking at me. I guess she thought I wasn't presentable because she wouldn't even let me go up and talk, like, or defend myself or anything. But I was very presentable. I was so presentable, it wasn't even funny. Like,
wow.
And I had a certificate from parenting classes that I've already taken. And I was going to school for child development because I wanted to be a preschool teacher. But I couldn't, and I can't do that now. Like, I feel like I can't do that now because of this whole situation. Like, they're not going to let me be around kids or anything. Like,
well, that's actually not true either. So, I know you said this is what you feel.
Yeah.
And I have a whole video about what you feel and what is justice. But you can still be that school teacher. And let me tell you why. When you apply through the process, and if there's any tests or anything you have to take, they're going to ask you if you have any type of, involvement with CPS or child abuse. And you will, of course, will say, honestly, yes. That may preliminarily cause them to pause. Now, they don't have to say, okay, you're out, Cassandra. They have the discretion to investigate and make a different decision. However, and I used to do, a few of these hearings back in the day, if they say, no, you're out because of this CPS involvement, you can actually appeal that. And you can have an appeal with an administrative law judge who could decide, based upon things that have changed over time, that you are fit and that you can get your license to, be a teacher or whatever it is. So there is a process that you have to go to. You're not automatically excluded. I hear a lot of people tell me all the time, well, I was thinking about this the other day. Somebody told me, well, 9 times out of 10, this isn't going to work. And my response is, yeah, you're right. But there's a 10% chance that it could work. And most people, when they're talking about getting custody of their kid or their grandkid or relative, will say, well, I want to take that 10% shot. because I don't know how things are going to turn out, right? We had on the show a couple of weeks ago, seems like, a woman who regained custody of her children after 5 years of her rights being terminated. Now, if that can happen, guess what else can happen? Almost anything. Because in order for you to say that this isn't going to work, you actually have to know what's going on with the kid and the placement and all of that thing. And sometimes you don't know. I can't tell you how many times in my career um, have kids been replaced with relatives or with a different relative because the placement with the foster home is just not working out at that time. And if you don't pursue it, you're never going to know. Okay? So if you only have a 10% chance of winning and you don't pursue it, you're never going to know. Now, you might say, well, I need to do everything possible to get this child placed with me. Okay, let's give it a shot. Right? So anything can happen in a case. And I want to make sure that when you're looking at your case and talking to your lawyer, that you realize that. You know, sometimes what happens in the case depends on the time and the effort you and your lawyer are going to put into the case. You know, if I'm just going to wake up and snap my fingers and shuffle some papers, of course it's not going to work. You know, winning these difficult cases, it's a lot of work. It's hard. You got to make motions, right? File petitions, you know, things of that nature. And sometimes people say, oh, I'm not going to do that. And they come up with the right reason and the rationale. But the real reason is too much work, you know. Uh, and, you know, to do these things, like in order to file your 388 petition, have a hearing on whether you should be allowed to have a hearing, and then having an actual hearing, you're talking about maybe 15, 20 hours of attorney time, maybe more. Now, you know, is that something that your attorney is looking forward to? I don't know. You know, your attorney gets paid the same no matter what. I don't know. I don't think I know your attorney, and even if I did, I wouldn't comment on it, but I don't know what's going through your attorney's mind. Now, I told you one time that I think that your attorney has a strategy. I do. She has a viable strategy. I just disagreed with it, right? But it is a strategy, and that's why they call it the practice of law. Your attorney may say one thing, I'll say something else. Although I think I'm right about the law, about that one little thing about whether you can use it again or not.
Yeah, she just, I don't know. Because I've done the parenting, I did almost all of my case plan, but she wants me to finish the whole case plan, like the whole thing. And I I feel like I don't need to finish the whole thing. I don't.
Look at this. This is from Melanie Wolf. She's watching on one of the Facebook platforms. She says, I have a degree in social work in Ohio, and my CPS case did not prevent me from keeping my license here. So you remember what I told you?
Hmm.
It's not an automatic bar to get you out of the business or out of that profession. So don't think that it is. And you know, I told you that they can review the case and decide, hey, you know what, we're going to let Cassandra pass on this one, or let Melanie pass on this one, and we're just going to let her keep her license. All right. Let's see what else is. Shane is saying this channel should be getting way more attention. All of this information is so important and badly needed by a lot of families. Thanks for what you do. Well, thank you very much, Shane. I appreciate that. Here's the problem, Shane, and I'll be honest with you. A lot of people aren't interested in the information, they just want results. I met with a guy today, bless him. He was a father, or he is a father, and he didn't understand, and the case has already started. He didn't understand that if he hired me, paid me hard earned money, why I couldn't go into court tomorrow or the next day and get his kids back home. And I had a difficult time explaining that to him. And he had a difficult time. I don't know if it was understanding, but he had just a difficult time accepting that. You know, everybody's perceptions about justice and what should go on in a case, they're different. And they're not, a lot of people just imagine, well, this is the way it is. And it's not that way at all. So, I finally told him, I said, look, you came to talk to me at my office because you thought I was an expert, right? He said, yeah. I said, I am an expert. And what I'm telling you, you're asking me to do, I couldn't do. I told him if Johnny Cochran was alive, Johnny couldn't do it. It's just some things take time. He came to me after the case started. Shit happened already that I can't change. Judge made orders already that I can't change. Now, I can figure out how to dig him out of the hole he's in, but that doesn't include getting the kids back in 2 or 3 days. It's just, just the way it is. So, Shane, thank you for that. You know what you should concern yourself about? You keep watching. You keep listening. You keep watching the videos and trying to learn more and more, and try to use that with your lawyer and in your case. And if you have other people that you meet, tell them about the channel. Just say, hey, check the channel out, and let them decide for themselves. And then, of course, Shane, there are some people that just don't like me. So who knows? I don't care if you're a Republican or Democrat. If you're a Trump supporter, everybody doesn't like Trump. If you were an Obama supporter or Biden supporter, everybody doesn't like them. So there's no one person that everybody likes. And so, you're always going to have to deal with that issue. But thank you. We're trying to put information out there. Hopefully it's going to help people in some way, in some manner. Okay, Nicole Haywood says, how can I get my 15-year-old back from her dad? How can I get my public defender to file motions? I have my 5 other kids, but they say my 15-year-old is unhappy, so they want me to give him custody. Him being, I guess, the father. Well, Nicole, if you were in California, you are suffering from the same problem Cassandra is suffering from. She can't get her public defender to file motions because, that public defender has another strategy. And I'm not saying it's a bad strategy. I just would do it differently. So that happens everywhere. Now, what's interesting is if you have 5 kids in your custody, in my mind, you're by definition, you're not a danger to any kids or a risk to any kids. So why you don't have your 15-year-old, I don't know. Now, there may be facts that we don't know about the case right now. For example, hey, your 15-year-old may not want to live with you. And most judges at that age will take that into consideration, right? If a 15-year-old child doesn't want to live with his mom. It's just the way I think things are. And, the judges do have discretion. By law, we've given them as a society to make decisions like this. And sometimes they make decisions that we don't like, but that's our system. All right. And Nicole says, I've done everything in my case plan. I hear you. I hear that a lot. I've done everything the social workers asked me. One of the biggest fallacies that I hear all the time is that at the jurisdictional and dispositional hearing, someone's told, take a plea bargain, admit fault, do your services, you'll get your kid back in 6 months. That's not true. Cassandra, did you ever hear that?
My baby's dad, my father of my children, they told him that like 3 times.
Right.
And he finished everything in his case plan, and he did a whole turnover of his life. Did it. And they told him, we're going to give your kids back in January, February, March. Yeah. And they never did. They never did.
So there can be a lot of reasons for that. New social worker, they think differently. They're shocked that you did the case plan. A lot of reasons why that doesn't work. Okay, Jeremy says, I'm not talking about license. I'm talking about going after families and so they can't transfer cases to different states. All right, Jeremy, I'm not sure what you're asking that question. Amy or Cassandra, do you know what Jeremy's talking about?
I think Jeremy was talking about, he's like, a lot of the time you got to go up, got to pick up and move into a different state when it's hard to pursue you, and they will always come back for you. And why is that? Family court, you don't get due process, it says on one of his things. And then I think he's talking about how you were talking about license. I think he thought you were talking about what he was asking, but
Okay.
that's
You know,
just
Jeremy, a lot of people that I talk to, and I see articles about this, I see it on social media, feel that in family courts and in, juvenile courts, the CPS courts, that people don't get due process. And here's the problem. The way the law defines due process is not what you think it is. All right. When I first, came across this system, and I was a young lawyer, I thought due process meant you get to have a jury trial. You get to be judged by your jurors. I mean, by people of your peers. You know, in some cases, like family law in California and juvenile dependency, CPS cases in California, you're not entitled to a jury trial. Why? That's just the law. In California, social workers can use hearsay evidence in trials and in hearings, but parents can't. That's one of the most unfair things I find out about this system. But it's due process. Why? Because it's the law. So due process is in the eyes of the beholder, but the only thing that counts is the law. And for the most part, you are given due process. The problem is it's not the due process you thought it would be, and you have to figure out a solution in order to get your children back. That's what I tell people all the time. Let's not worry about, they come to me in module 5 and they got screwed in module 1, and all they want to do is talk about module 1. Module 1 is over. Unless you want an appeal, there's nothing I can do. So let's focus on the here and now. All right, Crystal says, can I stop an adoption process after parental rights terminated and lost appeal in SD County? I'm assuming, Crystal, that's San Diego County here in California. Now, 9.7 attorneys that you ask out of 10 will tell you no. All right? But technically, that's not an accurate statement. All right? There is a very low probability of success of things that you can do, from different motions to set aside judgments and orders under, for example, fraud or something else, and civil lawsuits. For example, filing a civil lawsuit in federal court. That doesn't mean that you're going to win or that you're going to stop it, but there are things you can do. I don't know the specifics of your case, what's going on, but yeah, there are certain things that you can do. Okay, Nicole Haywood, if my ex gets custody and he doesn't want me around my daughter, will she get in trouble for coming around me anyway? Wait, let me see if I read that correctly. If my ex gets custody and he doesn't want me around my daughter, will she get in trouble for coming around me anyway? Well, Nicole, that means what that means is what the visitation orders are that the judge made. Did the judge say you could have visitation or not have visitation? If the judge said you can't have visitation, which is a rare thing, yeah, you could be violating a court order. You might be subject to contempt. So be careful. Look at your court order. Talk to your attorney. All right. Jeremy says, yes, I see. Thank you. I had one more question. You think if CPS workers had to wear body cams, it would change everything. It would change everything. Everything. 10 years ago, body cams were probably very expensive. Today, no, very inexpensive. And I think social workers should be made to wear body cams because, you know, it's always a dispute of what was said by a witness or what was said by, a person. And one of the biggest arguments was that they didn't want to videotape children speaking. And, I can understand that. But then again, the camera and the film would be protected. But here's the big thing. If you didn't want to videotape children, you can videotape the adults, you know, and it would cut out so many issues, so many problems. But here in LA County, there's always the issue of the body cam being turned off. Somehow it's not working, during that arrest where the defendant got got the shit beat out of him. So, yeah, I would say that it would fix a lot of problems. Crystal Freya says, my husband got somehow included in case. His parental rights were terminated for no reason. He didn't do anything. Is there anything his or he's able to file for? An appeal. He should get a good appellate attorney and talk to that attorney about what's available to do. I don't know, of course, all the facts and circumstances, but definitely there's something that he could do, or at least he should speak to someone about it. That's an unusual situation, but I have seen it happen before where someone that's what they call non-offending doesn't, gets their rights terminated.
Shouldn't they have an attorney too, though? I mean, shouldn't
Yeah.
they have the right to?
Yeah, I'm going to assume, Crystal and Amy, that this gentleman did have an attorney. And, things didn't work out right or didn't go wrong. Now, Crystal, I don't know you. I don't know the father. But I will say this. Sometimes people tell me stories like this. And then, of course, there's more to the story, right? There's always more to the story. There's always the other side. That doesn't mean he got a fair shake. Doesn't mean he didn't get a fair shake. I just don't know without more information, perhaps reviewing his file. All right. Gigi. Gigi's watching on YouTube. What are the motion you can file? I was told I could not file a 188/180 for my daughter because they want to adopt her. Okay. Gigi, assuming you're in California, what the motion that you want to file is called a 388. It's a JV 180. Okay. 388 is referencing Welfare and Institutions Code 388. And the form they use for that, and I think it's a mandatory form now in California, is called the JV 180. I think there's a JV 188. I forget what that is, if that's the order, but there's several forms in the JV 180 family that you're supposed to use. Now, if somebody wants to adopt your child, you should be filing a 388. Okay. The way the statute reads, as I recall, any person can file a 388. So that means, that man walking down the street, he could file a 388. Okay. Now, that doesn't mean the guy's going to win, but anybody can file it. Now, are you going to win the 388, get the child placed with you, get more family reunification services? Hard to say. Hard to say. Okay. So I'm just telling you what's out there. Uh-oh, I lost my place in the comments. Oh, there we go. Shane Huff, watching on YouTube. I have followed this channel for almost 2 years. The channel literally saved my family, sir. Had a CPS case from July 21 to October 22. My 3 daughters were never removed, and the judge found... Oh, he ran out of space. So, Shane, if you want to... Oh, yeah, here it is. And the judge found no dependency upon the courts 18 months later. I owe a lot to it, to what happened I learned and used to my advantage from this channel. Well, Shane, great. I'm glad to hear that. I hope you've liked and subscribed the channel on YouTube. But I'm glad everything worked out for you. Jeremy Derrick says, do you think the Safe Child Act was abused to make money for counties and started a lot of corruption for the agency? Jeremy, that's a very difficult question. I think laws are passed to help people or to do what's best. Here's the problem. People involved in the system can start using the law for reasons other than what it was intended. And you see that everywhere, not just in CPS cases. You see it everywhere in life. When you're writing a law, you can't write everything in the law. That's why we have courts to interpret it. Look at the legislative history and as such. And Jeremy, at this point in time, I think from my own limited experience, yes, it has been twisted for reasons that I believe weren't intended. So, all right, GG. He says there are different motions we can file to stop an adoption, but he doesn't say which ones. Okay, well, that's a very good point, GG. Watching on YouTube. Hope you give me a like and subscribe. You can file, if you're in California, you can file a 388 petition. Okay, look up Welfare and Institutions Code Section 388. Just Google it. And then Google the JB 184. All right.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Sorry, let me interrupt there. It says, I'm just reading something here. I don't even know where it popped up, but it says DHS does not prosecute abusive parents. Only a district attorney can prosecute a crime, and that district attorneys receive reports of possible criminal behavior from law enforcement officers.
Is that a
So if
question?
it's a okay, well, my question, okay, so if a child makes an accusation against their parent and like a sexual assault accusation against their parent, shouldn't that be in like a criminal court?
Generally, yes. It doesn't happen all the time. All right. But generally, yes. But whether a criminal case is filed, it's up to the district attorney's office, which is different from Child Protective Services office. Okay.
I find it odd because, I mean, the reason that this child was even taken out of my home was due to that very reason. And her half sister accused her dad of sexual assault, and the mother's boyfriend. And I mean, now when we go to court, we don't even talk about that. That's not even what it's about. It's about the birth mother's disabilities and her ability to raise a child. It's went from not even talking about the accusations to the birth mother.
Well, Amy, here's one of the problems with our system that a lot of people find hard to accept. The CPS cases and the criminal cases generally operate independent of each other. So just because you have a case in CPS court doesn't mean that you're going to have a case in criminal court. And there are many reasons for that. CPS court, different laws, different evidentiary standards. Criminal court, different laws, higher evidentiary standards. So sometimes district attorneys do choose not to file a criminal case because they don't feel that they have sufficient evidence beyond a reasonable doubt. CPS court can file, social workers can file, but they only have to meet preponderance of evidence, right? Beyond a reasonable doubt, preponderance of evidence. Big difference. I'll give you a classic example. Do you remember O.J. Simpson being prosecuted?
Yes.
It was alleged he killed 2 people, right? He goes through the criminal trial with the dream team of lawyers, right? And he's found not guilty. They take the same case and they walk across the street and they prosecute him for wrongful death, the killing of those two people, civilly for money. He loses $45 million. Now, at first blush, how can you say, how could he win the criminal and then lose the civil? Different laws, different evidentiary standards, and the same applies to dependency cases or CPS cases and criminal cases. That doesn't mean that they have the evidence. You follow? So
Yeah.
I know that is kind of weird reasoning. Okay, I admit that. I'm not here justifying the system. I'm just telling you that what the system is saying and what the system is doing. Do CPS and district attorneys ever work together? Yes, they do. And then sometimes they don't. And why is that? I don't know. Just people make different decisions. Okay. But let me get back to Gigi's point. Gigi, I said 388 petition. I said a motion to set aside for fraud. Okay. I don't think there's a form for that. That's more of a common law type of motion. And I also said a lawsuit for preliminary injunction and temporary restraining order to try to stop an adoption, preferably in federal court, but maybe in state court. But it won't be in that case. Now, I think, Gigi, I've mentioned 3 or 4 things that you could do. Here's your problem, Gigi. How do you do those? Right? I might as well tell you, hey, go perform open heart surgery to fix that heart valve. How do you do that? That's the problem. I'm going to assume, Gigi, you're not a lawyer, you're not a doctor. You're not going to know how to do those things. Okay? And so I'm not here, it's a 45-minute show, and I'm not going to get into, or I can't get into a 5-hour discussion with a non-lawyer about how to do something. Just don't have the time. I'm sorry. You know what, Gigi, if you do want to talk to me further about the case, go ahead and look at this telephone number, bottom right of your screen, 888-888-6582, and give me a call. Okay? Okay, I can do one more of these questions. Let's see, Nicole Haywood says, my ex has not been cooperating with CPS or getting mental health services for our 15-year-old. Her grades have also dropped since she's been with him. He also doesn't attend CPS parenting meetings to try to help. Is co-parent, will he likely get custody? And then it says, I feel like caseworkers working for me more than the public defender. Okay, Nicole, will he get custody? I don't know. Unfortunately, I don't know enough about the case, but if you have a plan and a strategy with your attorney, you can make sure that, the best evidence and arguments are made that you get the custody of the child instead of your ex. So I hope that helps. All right, Amy, we've come to the end of the show. Thank you for joining me as a guest. Now, we lost Cassandra. Cassandra out there, thank you for joining us. Hopefully, Miss G will join us tomorrow night. And I want to thank everybody for watching. We'll see you tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Good night, all.
Thank you.